Hello and welcome to Learn Data. I'm Nilesh and today we'll continue to learn about pandas. In this video, you'll learn how to check if there are certain elements from a list that you have, if they exist in a series or a data frame. And for this, we are going to use the isin, where, and mask commands. Additionally, we'll then check if we can use these commands to see if we can check values from a dictionary exist in a particular data frame. And finally, we'll look at where statements to see how we can use them to change values in a data frame using certain boolean conditions. So let's get started in Jupyter Notebook. Here I've already created the notebook and imported two libraries, NumPy and Pandas. Further, I've created a series which runs from 1 to 10 numbers, as you can see, series A. And then we also have a data frame which has three columns, num, L1 and L2. The number column has numbers, other two columns have characters in them. So let's get started with using isin for a series. And the usage for using this statement, what this statement does is it checks if elements from a given, say, list exist in that particular series. So our series in this case is A, and if we want to check if, let's say, 1, 2 and 3 exist in that list A, then we can write it like this: A dot isin, open parenthesis, and in square brackets we want to specify the elements that we want to check if they exist. And this gives us back a boolean series which is true and false. So this is true for all the elements that do exist. So in this case, these are the three elements that do exist in this series that we have. And we can also check the type just to be sure, and we can see it's a series that we get back. Now, how do we use this series to filter out the false and keep only the true? So as we saw in the previous video, we have used this mask approach, and we can do the same here. So in A and then square brackets, if we type this entire code and run it, then we get only those values back which are flagged as true. All other false values are not in the output. Similar to this, we can use the isin to check in indices. Check if index exists. So to do that, the syntax is similar with one slight modification, where we want to type a dot index to get the index first, and then we want to type isin, and here let's say we want to check if the numbers 2, 5 and 7, if they exist in the particular series that we have. And I'm going to go ahead and type this, sorry, it should be a square bracket, and we can see that only the 2, 5 index 2, 5 and 7, those are returned. All other index values are not in the output. Now let's move on to using the same isin command in a data frame. So for that, here we have the data frame df that we created up above, and we are going to go ahead and create another variable, check this, and this variable will, let's put some values, say z, b, maybe 3, and we are going to see if these three values exist in the data frame that we have, which is up here. We know that z exists, we know that b exists, and we know that 3 exists. Let's put another element there that does not exist, so say okay. Now to the syntax is similar to series, so we want to say df dot is in and check this, and this will return a boolean data frame which has true values for those elements which do exist in the final data frame. and those values that do not exist, those are not there. Okay, so here we can see that true is for L1, L2 here, so this must be, let's pull the df here and see what we have. So for Z this is true and we have Z here. B, this should be B, yep, that's the B, and we have that. 3 is now the reason why 3 is not showing up as true in here, it's false here, because 3 is in quotes and therefore it is treated as a string. To make it as a number, we want to type just 3, and when we do that, we do see that the true condition is there, so we see that that element does exist. Now how about making this a little more involved? Can we check more than one columns with this type of approach? Yes, we can. So we can use a dictionary. So use a dictionary to check, and we can use a dictionary to check if the values from the dictionary do exist in specific columns within a data frame. So let's create a dictionary such as check this. We'll keep the same name, and here we'll keep the same key names, that are the column names. So num and 1 2, and let's have under 2 columns from L1. Let's say if we want to check to see if C and A exists, okay, and then from L2 let's see if we can find Z and X. Now what we anticipate happening is, if these elements are there only when these 3 conditions are satisfied. So for example, if 1 from number exists, which is this one, then A from the L1 column exists, which it does here, and then Z from the L2 column exists, which it does here. When all these 3 exist, only then return us the row from the data frame. If only 1 exists or if only 2 exist, we do not want that row back. So how do we do that? So for we are going to create a mask. So mk is equal to df dot isin, and here we'll give the dictionary check this, and we are going to use a command all, and for x is 1, which will be the columns. Now when we run this, here we get true for only one value, and that's correct because only one row satisfies the condition where at least one element from each of these 3 key value pairs exist, right? 1, A and Z, that's the only case. Because if you look at 2 is there, but then if for 2 to be all the way true, it needs B and K, and we do not have B and K here, so that is false. And therefore when we put this mask in the data frame in square brackets, we should get only one row back, and that's what we get. So that's how we can use isin to check if certain values exist either in a series or in a data frame. Now let's look at the where statement. So in where statement we get the same shape back as opposed to isin, where we got only the rows that were true that came out. So let's see how we can work on this one. So where, and let's say initially if we want to check if there are numbers greater than 3 in this series, we get these back, which the false one are not written here. But now if we use where, let's say a dot where a greater than 3, then we get everything back, and those that are greater than 3 are also back. So as you can see here. Okay, now let's try the same thing with a data frame. And here we would need a data frame that has all numbers in it. So why don't we create one data frame, and let's go ahead and create a data frame which has numbers, say 1 2 3 4, and then another number, let's say 10 20 30 40. Okay, so we have this data frame. Now if we want to check the same condition for greater than 3, let's see what we get. So df greater than 3. So here we get NaNs for all the numbers that are less than 3, and we get NaN, we get the actual numbers that are greater than 3 back, as you can see. Now if we use the df.where df greater than 3, then we get the same output. As you can see, we get everything back. Now with where we can also specify a number which can be used to replace these NaNs that do not match, and to do that we can specify where df greater than 3. Let's say we want to replace that with 999, and there we go. So we replaced all the elements within that data frame which were not greater than 3 with a term provided here which was 999. So it is going to replace all values that were false. Okay, that is important to remember. It replaces, so where replaces all values that are false. Now contrary to this, there is another statement which is called mask. So mask, and if we use mask in here, so if you say df.mask df greater than 3 999, see what this did, exact opposite of where. It replaced all the elements that were true for this condition with this particular number 999. So that's a very important difference between where and mask that we always need to remember. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next topic, where we are going to check to see how we can replace numbers or elements within a series or a data frame using a condition. So updating elements, and first we'll look at a series and see how that works. So our series, we'll go ahead and make a copy of our series A so that we don't do anything with the original series A. Now in this series A2, if we want all the elements that are greater than 3, so let's pull A2 real quick. Now if we need to change all the elements greater than 3, which means all these 4 through 10, if we want to make them all 0, then we can do that in this way. So A2 and then A2 greater than 3 equal to 0. So now if we check A2, it will be, these are all turned to 0. And this is really important because when we work with the images and arrays, these will be really helpful. Even in when we work on different types of data sets in data frames, this will be very helpful. Similarly, we can make same changes in a data frame, and why don't we create another data frame, df2, which is a copy of df, which is all numbers that we had just now. So this is our data frame. Now if you want to change or update the numbers in this data frame where the df2 is, let's say, greater than 20, if that is the case, then make them all 0. So can we do that? And here we change 30 and 40 to 0 because they are greater than 20, all others are less than 20, and therefore all those elements stayed as they were. Now let's go ahead and use the where command with the data frame and see how we can change the numbers within a data frame. So for data frame, and let's make a copy of the data frame, df3 is equal to df.copy df3, and that's our data frame. Now here if we want to change a couple of numbers, so let's say if you want to change the numbers, all numbers except 30 and 40. So how do we do that? So df3 dot where df3 greater than 20 999. Now what where does is it would change, it will put 999 in all cases where this condition is false, and this condition is false everywhere except where 30 and 40 are there. So what we expect in the output is all numbers change to 999 except 30 and 40, and that's exactly what we get here. So we were able to change the numbers based on where statement. Now here if we used mask, if we use mask command, it should be exactly the opposite. Yes, so it replaces trues and where replaces all false. That's the key difference there. Similarly, without where also we can use our normal indexing to change values. So let's say we have our data frame, this one here, and we need to change our values for rows 0 to 1, and if they are greater than a certain number, say if they are greater than 10 or less than 10 to 0, we can do that. So if we say df and we go from 0 to 2, so that means 0 1 and not 2. If they are greater than, or let's say less than 20, then convert them to 0, and that's what we did here. So only these rows, first two rows, we applied the condition and changed its value. These are really important ways to manipulate dataset, and we'll be using a lot of this in the projects that will be coming up soon. Now let's look at another way in which we can use where to make changes in a data frame. So here we can go ahead and create another data frame that is all numeric without any characters. So we have, let's say we have the same num column which has elements 1 2 3 4 and say 40, and we have another column A which has 11 12 3 4 and 55, and let's say we have yet another column B which has values starting from 1 1 2 2 3 and then 99. So that's our data frame. Now again we are going to use where command. So df dot where df greater than 3, and here which for the false we are going to replace not with a number that we give, but a number that already exists within the data frame. So we are going to replace with the values that are in the column A. Now if you say axis is equal to 0, and then when we run this, we can see that wherever the conditions is false, the values are, so 1 is not greater than 3, so the condition is false, and therefore it has the value of d of a which is 11 put in here. Again 2 is not greater than 3, so the condition is false, and therefore the value of 12 from a is put there. Whereas 40 and all these are greater than 3, the condition is true, and therefore they are left as they were, so no changes there. That was it up to there for where. Before closing this video, I just want to mention similar in and not in commands that are from list, not used here right now. So if we were to check if a particular number or element exists in a list, we would simply say 1 2 3, and that will tell us if it's there or not. Similar to this, if we were to check if it is not in there, we would simply type 1 not in this particular list. Okay, so and if there are numbers, other numbers, so let's say if you want to check 11 is in the list, and we should get false for that. Now if we want to check 11 not in this list, then we should get a true value for that. I just wanted to mention that in passing because you're talking about isin and where statements. I hope you learned something new today about how to use conditions to check if value exists within a series or a data frame, and how we can go about changing those values if they come up as true or false. Please like, share, and subscribe, and it helps me stay motivated to create more content for you guys. And I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you.